always keep a very separate thing in my mind between process and practice. Process is maybe what you want to be doing, it's your espoused method, but the practice is your actual method. That's what people are doing on the shop floor. And there's usually pretty good reasons as to why the practice exists, because the process is maybe clunky, or it's asking people to do things that they know there's no point in doing it. Or
welcome everybody to A Quality Podcast Season 2. We are happy to have with us today Derek Scott. Derek is the director at Paragon Process Improvements on the other side of the rather large pond that separates us. Derek, welcome to the show today.
Good evening, guys. Thanks very much for having me on. Very excited to be here. Big fan of the show.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you on as well, not just because your philosophy and what you bring to this space, is in close alignment with our values, but also because of the work you do at Paragon, which is near and dear to our hearts. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and about Paragon Process Improvements?
Sure, thank you very much, John. Well, my name is Derek Scott. I'm based in the northeast of Scotland. As you mentioned there, I'm the director for Paragon Process Improvements. It's an independent consultancy that's been set up within the last 6 months. I've got 15 years worth of experience within the quality field, working in various different levels within many different sizes of organizations, usually within the oil and gas sector, as that's normally what the northeast of Scotland is particularly focused on, is certainly the energy sector, but oil and gas has been predominant here for many, many years. So I've worked in different streams across that, from subsea construction through to integrity management, and down to the sort of component manufacturer level. Always in quality roles, generally everything from information management right through to sort of departmental management across an entire organization. So a lot of experience across doing that, and multi-credentialed as a fellow of the Chartered Quality Institute, certified quality engineer with the ASQ, of which I'm a senior member. I'm a fellow of the Royal Statistical Society, and also a certified manager of quality and organizational excellence with the ASQ. So just looking obviously with Paragon Process Improvements now to start branching out into the deep, dark, shark-infested waters of consulting, and see where we go from here as an independent, and try that for a few years. And it's something I've always wanted to do. And I've got a client that I'm working with in the renewables field at the moment, which is again a bit of a different. It's a different ball game to oil and gas, to put it mildly, but it's certainly a very interesting field to be working in for sure.
So before we dive into 100 questions that brought up, tell me what you're wearing today.
So, well, it's as you know, it's Halloween, so I'm dressed in my Jedi robes, attempting to be dressed in my Jedi robes, which unfortunately I'm a bit too fat for. So this belt that I'm wearing around here, I have to breathe in real carefully, because if I don't, then the whole thing pops off and everything just falls out. It's absolutely roasting as well. So,
that belt, may the force be with it.
I knew exactly what you were. So, other John Thacker, I don't know what's wrong with you, but obviously that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm just saying.
I'm a Star Trek fan, so you Star Wars guys gonna have to clue me in.
No, I'm going with Darth Derek, because I've got a lightsaber on my windowsill here.
There you go. But it's Sith red, so
I can't go claiming the Obi-Wan Kenobi line, unfortunately.
Darth Derek works for me. I remember when I was 5 or 6 being asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said Darth Vader. And apparently I concerned some parents at the time. I really, really misunderstood that movie, because I thought he was the coolest dude in the galaxy. Let me tell you what. Dresses in all black, has his own spaceship. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be a Darth Vader?
Absolutely. It's goals to aim for.
Yeah, so starting with a firm love for Star Wars there, Derek, how did you fall in love with quality?
It's an interesting kind of story, really, to get back to the very beginning of it. My original first career was in the hospitality industry. I'm actually a trade chef, and was for about 7 years or so. But it's a pretty brutal lifestyle, to be honest. Doing a lot of split shifts, very long hours, not exactly the most well remunerated job in the galaxy. And I'd been doing that for 7 years and had really kind of had enough. And I knew of a job that was coming up that would allow for a relocation from where I was at that time staying up to Aberdeen, where I'm presently based. And that job, I started off working in information management again at a fairly low level, but it got me into the company I was wanting to work in, and got me an introduction to working on EPC projects and working in a project environment. So I was exposed to a lot of different people and different job roles and professions, if you will, at that particular point in time, not really knowing what I wanted to do. But I certainly found that I tended to work on projects with one particular individual who was in quality, and so I always thought everything that she said always made loads of sense to me. I thought, oh wow, I'm down with what she's saying here. This is interesting. So she kind of became a bit of a mentor to me, and I'm lucky enough to continue still working with her now. And so she basically kind of gave me a few pointers and a few tips, and over a period of time, I kind of developed and grew into that department that she worked in, and started off as an associate quality advisor within that particular company, which is a sort of graduate level position, which I was very lucky to get because I didn't actually have a degree. I'm not degree qualified, never have been. So that was, like I say, a very good career boon for me to be able to get. And it was one of these things that when I joined and I met a lot of other people within the department, there was one guy I sat and had a coffee with, and he said, "Oh, it's interesting you came along." And quality is just one of these things you fall into, isn't it? It's not really something you ever see at a career fair. So well, for the last 4 years, this is all I've wanted to do. It's just been something that has, it was a kind of epiphany style moment when I first started working within the field that this is the career for me. This is what I like doing. This is where I fit well. Just things that just make sense. And that's where, like I said, I maybe fell into it, but it's something that I love doing, and I bore everybody. The mentor I was speaking about previously, I mentioned I was going on holiday to her recently, so I bet you're taking a load of boring quality books with you. So I've got a stack of them that's this size that I'm taking away with me. So it's definitely it's a passion that's only grown over the years, and since then I've moved between a few different organisations and worked in different level roles, from sort of corporate advisor roles through to departmental manager roles, through to being sort of the sole focal point, the only quality person within an organization. So through all different sort of sizes of organizations, from one that was 16,000 people strong down to one that was maybe 120 people strong. So different sizes, different strokes, different folks. I think the smallest organization I've done any work for is a skincare startup, which is a single individual working on it, and that's definitely a different field to try and apply some of these methodologies to. But they're all still very valid. I mean, you still need to have process and job specs. You still have to control outcomes and process characteristics, and you can still monitor and measure them. So a lot of the manufacturing principles are equally valid regardless of the size of the organization. So that's what I really love and I'm passionate about within quality, is that it's almost like a universal set of constants which can be applied in any set of circumstances. And I had an old colleague of mine who once mentioned that the ISO 9001 standard, for example, for quality management systems, can be applied from everything from manufacturing and giant chemical plants down to chip shops, and it all applies. It all works the same thing.
Just to clarify, when you say chip shops, you really mean French fries.
Oh, Belgian fries, my friend. No,
Now,
I mean the Scottish big thick cut chips,
There
the
you
ones
go.
that are deep fried for an eternity before you
You
have them.
you will breathe very easy knowing that everyone we've ever asked about their background and quality, literally none of them were like, I was a 5-year-old boy and I wanted to be a quality manager when I grew up. Almost everybody went through 5 industries and then fell into it, and then like cosmic humor said, you know what? We're gonna make you like the most boring shit in the world. And that's how we got here.
Yeah, before you know it, you're reading books on statistical process control.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You,
and enjoying
both,
it.
both of you are published authors on the subject, are you not?
We are both published authors. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier on today when I was on Amazon doing a wee bit of a dig around between everyone's profiles on LinkedIn and whatnot.
What'll really
Oh,
bake
there
your
we go.
noodle is when you get on Amazon and you find my book on strongman training. That's what's going to throw you for a loop.
Okay, that is definitely pickling my brain, but good
Yeah,
work.
a guy used to be gigantic with 290 pounds, single percent body fat.
I don't know about the body
Yeah,
fat, but
and he looked like he was a different ethnicity. He did not look like standard Caucasian male. I don't know if it's a tan thing or it's
I
because
don't
he's
know
a
what there's
blend, but like he did not look like the same guy, like for real.
I didn't know there was a standard. It was probably the big bushy Arab beard that I grew that had that effect. But yeah, I've been in strength athletics for some time. I still hit the gym regularly, but I couldn't be good at my job and good at strongman, and I had to pick one, so I picked the one that paid me. So
Fair enough.
can't.
Yeah, I can understand that. I used to be involved in politics quite heavily over here, and basically when you have career, family, and politics, it's pick two.
Yeah.
You don't have time for three of those. So family and the career came first.
And you're in the Aberdeen area?
Yeah, Aberdeen area. Have been based here since 2006. Grew up here originally, but I've moved about since quite a bit since I was younger. So, but I've been settled here for the last 15, 16 years. Working up here, like I say, in the oil and gas industry for the last wee while. And now settled down here, family myself. So, wife, 2 kids, 2 young girls, one of 4, one of 18 months, and they definitely keep you on your feet. That's for sure.
That's definitely a
That's
life
a
sentence.
fun age.
Oh, absolutely. It's and it's the sort of thing you get absolutely no respect from them whatsoever, and particularly when obviously when you're an independent consultant, you don't necessarily have like a lot of people that you can issue any sort of authoritative. Well, I'm a manager, and therefore I'm telling you to go and please do this. This is your instruction type of thing. Um, but children just they have no respect for any sort of parental authority whatsoever. I had my eldest turn around to me the other day and say, "Daddy, you have boo boos like mummy, and you're very very fat." Uh, Great,
I tell a story often. I went to John's house, and as I walked through the door, met his daughter. She goes, "Hi, I'm Alana. You're fat." It's like the first thing out of her mouth was just like, "Oh my, oh." Let me finish my Cheetos and cry.
Yeah, daughters especially, they will give it to you straight. Let me tell you what.
Absolutely.
Um, well, that's fascinating, Derek. Of course, you might know if you watch our show. I'm Scottish on my dad's side. Um, my grandmother's surname is Scott. Um, we have some paraphernalia we passed down. I guess a lot of Scottish families are proud of where they came from. Um, so we have this little dagger or something that we hand down, and some big blanket that was on some guy's sweaty arse at some point in the past. Anyway,
You can't, Derek, as somebody from Scotland, you can't go a full day talking to an American without them dropping. Well, my mom's 1/4 from from one of these towns not far from you,
Uh,
right? Is that
I've had it a few times, but it's either that or it's the Scotland. What part of England is that in? which, trust me, you can say nothing more infuriating to a Scots person than what part of England do you come from?
Yeah, it's the north part, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, North Britain.
No, but going back to an earlier comment of yours, Derek, you talk about walking into a facility with no real authority to impress,
Hmm.
to give and exude as you deal with people. So how do you go about facilitating the outcomes that you're looking for?
Okay, so in that sort of situation, it's the way that I'm working just now as a consultant. I'm in there to do a very specific role. So I have only the authority of the company which I'm representing. In that sense, to be able to, it's more a kind of managerial role in the sense that you're managing the supply chain activities within what is a very large EPC. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar EPC project that I'm working on at the present time. So you have only that sort of sense of authority to be able to say, well, this project needs these activities by this time and this deliverable, and you must comply with these sort of contractual requirements to be able to make the customer happy at the end of the day. And you're sort of acting more as an intermediary there between the client, who is, my client is the same as their client. Ultimately, we're both suppliers to the same corporate body, corporate entity, as it were. So you can kind of play on that and try and be a little bit, I'm on your side, guys, as well. But it's certainly a very different type of environment to being a managerial type of position where you have, like I say, innate authority, if you want to call it that, as part of the managerial role, where you're taking a look at, well, I'm responsible for organizational outcomes and product outcomes, but also career outcomes for those people that you are managing as well. So, you're not necessarily in my position at this point in time dealing so much with the people aspects of the quality so much as you are just simply dealing with contractual requirements, schedules, deliverables, and attempting to make sure that all these different components come together at the place that they need to come together at the time that they need to come together at to make a fundamental greater whole happen. Whereas obviously, in the same sense as a manager, you are trying to do the same thing, but just in a different way. You're trying to make a different set of procedures, people, items, materials, tools come together to make an outcome happen. But it's just you're doing it with a different end goal in mind, and in a different sphere.
Well, that's exciting. One of the things that I like about external consultants, and I've hired quite a few in my career, is that one, they can't use bullying and authority, right? They have to have influence and buy-in. And two,
Yeah.
they have like a blank slate. Um, you know, most of the times when I'm running a business and we have a problem, look, let's be honest, the people running the business created the problem, right? We know that. We're not dumb, we know it's our issue, but so how do we assume that we have the thinking, the experience to unscrew it up, right? And to me, that's the one of the biggest benefits from using an external consulting company is that the modes of thinking are different, the vision is different, the glasses that they see the world through are different, and can identify uh, probably more quickly and with less ego in the way what needs to happen, to help the business improve and get where it wants to be.
It's an interesting take that you mentioned that there. Um, I don't necessarily look at it so much. I mean, it's partially 50-50 in that way. I would have said in that you come into a different organization. I remember walking around one factory, for example, the first time I was in there with the factory manager, and he turned to me at the end of the tour and said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, this, that, and the next thing." I gave some direct feedback in terms of where I could see issues that if I were to be involved with that organisation, these are the things that I would change, and this is how I would go about doing that. Um, so yes, there's a technical skills aspect to that where you look at things with a fresh set of eyes, and you don't have the, well, it's always been this way. I grew up with this company, and it's always been this way, and it always will be this way. But it's also that being external to that, or certainly being new into an organization as well, from that you can bring maybe I guess an ego-free kind of approach, as you say, in that you say, well, I don't have all the answers, but what I do have is the ability to come here and ask the right questions, and maybe we can all get together around the table and say, it's always been this way. Why? Why has it always been this way? What can we do differently? Why do you keep doing these things? Oh, it's because. Is there a reason? Well, let's sit down and have a conversation about that. So you can, like I say, maybe ask questions in a different way and ask the questions that people who have been dyed in the wool within an organization's culture for a long period of time are not necessarily, they maybe not even allowed by the organization's culture to question certain things because it just always has been that way. So coming in externally and coming in new into an organization fresh, you may be allowed and permitted to ask the questions that are the unquestionable things at that point in time. And that's where I think a lot of benefit can be gotten by getting new eyes, new ears, and new brains around the table for perhaps a familiar problem.
So what's that approach look like specific to Paragon? What does that conversation look like? A potential customer is listening to this podcast. What is your value proposition?
Again, it's one that has to be set by the customer and by the customer's own specific problems. It's something that has to be scaled because it's each set of problem. I mean, like I say, I think of myself really more than anything else as a problem solver. I'm here to help people make things work in a particular way or maybe work better. And the way that doing that is that it's you have okay. I've got a long list of a laundry list of things that tools that I can use in a particular way, but they may not necessarily be the ones that you need to apply. Just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should. So, for example, one thing, a conversation that I had online recently was that hypothesis testing, for example, it forms a fundamental core part of the Lean Six Sigma body of knowledge. And any course that you do as a black belt, you're going to have a whole load of one-tailed chi-square tests within this. You have to learn Mann-Whitney tests and all these different statistical tests of significance. And like I said, I've worked for 15 years within quality and worked in different levels with different organizations in different fields and all the rest of it. I've actually used these things on like 2 occasions. They're such a huge part of this body of knowledge, but then so often you tend to find that, particularly with smaller organizations as well, that you are not going to be using those sort of things. You don't necessarily have the data harvesting systems there to provide you with the volume of data that you actually need to be able to draw statistically sound conclusions for these type of tests. So they can be used badly and they can be used wrong, and they can give you the wrong information and they won't tell you anything of significance, which...
Yeah, anybody who's had an interest in statistics knows how easy it is to lie with statistics.
Absolutely. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. But there are certain other things that, as a quality professional, any quality professional, any competent quality professional in the field would be able to bring to the table as well in terms of looking at problems and being able to say, well, okay, tell me what you're actually doing. Show me your process map. Show me what you're actually expected to deliver here. What's your customers' requirements as a start off? What do they want to see? And how are you providing that as an organization? How are your processes providing that within the organization? Where are you gathering data? Where do you need to gather data? Who is doing this? Why are they doing this? You can ask all of these questions, and this is where, like I say, I've used this far more often than anything else, is taking what existing process maps an organization have, laying it out on the table and saying, well, is this actually how you do it? And inevitably, you find that, no, the process map lies. It's not reflective of practice. And this is the difference between, like I always keep a very separate thing in my mind between process and practice. Process is maybe what you want to be doing. It's your espoused method, but the practice is your actual method. That's what people are doing on the shop floor, and there's usually pretty good reasons as to why the practice exists, because the processes may be clunky, or it's asking people to do things that they know there's no point in doing it, or it takes them too long to do it, so it kills their cycle time for particular turnarounds on products that they're doing. So you take apart your process from your as is process, put it into your to be process. Say, well, where do you want to be? Okay, we want to have this, this, and this. Okay, great, that's fine, but your current process doesn't reflect your practice. Let's make your process reflect your practice first, and then have step by step. Well, where do we need to get to where you want to be? And you can dial that from just individual. I want to make a process have a particular outcome through to I want to have a department have a particular outcome through to I want to drive an organizational goal and an organizational objective to say to be the number one within your field within 5 year period. Okay, great. To do that, you then need this, but you can't jump from here to here because there's 3 or 4 steps in the middle that you need to do first to become a mature organization that's going to allow you to do that. So making a long, 5 year plan saying, okay, these are the way we're going to do this in a controlled fashion and get not just your people up to the level that you want to be able to be delivering number one style level organizational excellence, but also your processes, your technology. You're not going to be an expert in metrology by using a slide rule and a measuring tape. If you really want to have ISO 17025 style performance, you need to have something a little bit more sophisticated than that. So
I do like the slide rule comment. I make that just about once a week on some forum.
Yeah. My favorites are the verniers. It's there's a reason why they're called very nears. It's
Yeah, one thing that I've found as I've helped different sites transform, lean transformation, in most cases, it has been a continuous improvement and quality management system journey. They may call it lean, but it's typically not actually lean. That's just sort of a vernacular where I have been in North America, catch-all term, right? One thing that I found pretty consistently is that the ability to have the wisdom to select the right methodology and approach is much more important than how good you are at the specific methodology or approach. Because I can always get help with that. Companies can always get help with a specific methodology. There's Google, there's YouTube, there's people that want to help you. Maybe it's 5S or implementing a pull system in a manufacturing plant that has, both a continuous manufacturing of fab parts as well as discrete manufacturing of finished goods, right? How does this pull from that side? Sort of a unique project I set up at one point. Knowing which tool and methodology and what should happen next is far more important than your skill in implementing, because that you can find help with. But if you
John, one thing I love as you're talking about that specific point in choosing the right tool, listen to how he said he never used DOE, but uses a process map all the time and is like his default.
Absolutely. Jake and I joke about this all the time. Our first tool almost everywhere is a swim lane process map, because we can put steps to the process and we can also put positions to the process. It's almost a matrix that helps us narrow our focus really quickly and know, hey, this is broken, right? We tell the story of the one process map. Not only did it have 50 steps, but there were 2 places where there was literally no connection from one step to the next, 0 signal to do work. So the process really ended here, and this guy in a different silo just kind of had to guess to do work, right? But yeah, picking the right tool, that wisdom, that is a deep skill. It's a learned skill, and I found it to be far more important than how good you are at a particular tool, because you can get help much more easily with how to execute something than what should I execute.
There's 2 points that you mentioned there that I'd like to pick up on. Then the first being in terms of the people side of it, and getting help with the right tool. Both generally as a consultant and as a manager, you're going to have other people that you're working around as well. And it's about being humble enough to know that you're not the expert in everything. You're not going to know everything. And even for consultant or someone who's let's put in quote marks highly trained in these sort of things, it doesn't mean that you know it all. You can't possibly know it all. It's no human being is infallible, and certainly as a manager, one of the primary things that you should be doing is surrounding yourself with best people that you possibly can, who have the best knowledge about their own particular areas. I was very lucky in my previous role to have worked with a QC team lead who was an outstanding expert in metrology, which was something I knew a reasonable amount about, but I certainly wouldn't have said I was a world leading expert in. But this guy was fantastic. He was really really good at it. Um, and I worked with him and mentored him as well through his chartership with the Chartered Quality Institute. Tried to help develop his love and passion for quality as well, and helped to do that with him. Did that with the American Society of Quality, with his membership with them as well, and ended up nominating him for an award cheekily without his knowledge, which he actually ended up winning, and was rather confused when he got a phone call from the nominating agent at the American Society of Quality saying, "Oh, congratulations, you've won award XYZ." And, oh my goodness! So I phoned me. You're never going to believe this. I've just been awarded this award by the American. Oh no, I believe it because I was the one that nominated you. So he's actually going to be getting a presentation for that next month, which I think certainly as a manager and as a professional is certainly one of the proudest moments of my career, is seeing someone I've helped to go on and get some professional recognition within the field as well. So that's
is the guitar coming off the wall there?
I've got a bass guitar up there, and I've got a large collection of guitars over in the corner of my room there as well.
Outstanding. So heavy metal guitar.
Yeah. That's I don't get to play it too much these days though, because obviously the kids go down to bed at 8 o'clock, and thrash metal at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It's not something the wife's all that keen on, nor the children. So
we traded music earlier in the week, and he sent me smooth jazz and heavy metal. So I'm like, man, we can really vibe. We are really like tooting the same horns, right?
And now you're speaking my language. So what do you think of Martinangelo Matteo?
Oh God. Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos of him, where he's got 3 different guitars and he's playing them with like 2 different hands like this, and it's technically very impressive. But in terms of, is it something that probably I'd want to stick on in my car and listen to while driving to work? Not really.
He was the most technically proficient electric guitarist to play for the shittiest 80s band ever. Which is
what band was it he actually played for?
Nitro, I think.
Never even heard of them.
No, because they were terrible. I mean, they were just terrible. It was the worst band ever. I don't know how he got stuck with them.
I don't know anything about the band, but I know when the song rolls around on Guitar Hero, I just take the guitar off, set it down, go about my business.
Right. I give up. I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I can about cope with some 1980s style metal with Metallica and Megadeth on the guitar. I can do some of that, but it's when it starts getting into that sort of level. Who was the guy from Extreme? Nuno Betancourt. He was another guitar player. Some of his solos just all over the place. I don't have the patience to learn the guitar that well.
And that fella from Dragon Force, he's another speed metal, I think they call it.
Herman Lee.
Herman Lee.
So I don't know if you've ever seen those guys live. I went to see them live in Edinburgh in 2003, and they're doing all this kind of crazy stuff on the guitar, but at the same time they've got trampolines set up on either side of the stage, so they're like jumping off the side of the stage, bouncing off these trampolines, and jumping all over the stage while still doing all this.
On Game Informer, a popular gaming magazine, rated that song "Through the Fire and Flames" on Rock Band as one of the hardest evil bosses of all time.
It really is.
Like, do you have a trained spider that's helping you hit these buttons? Yeah. repeat that for the audience based on where we cut it. So I was ragging on John for being a Star Wars nut, basically, and then you said they're remaking Knights of the Old Republic.
They are, yes. That was just announced just a couple of weeks back, 4 weeks back. They're doing a remake of the Knights of the Old Republic. It's only coming out on PlayStation and Xbox because there's some exclusive deal with Microsoft or something. I don't know. I don't know the details of it, but yeah, they're going to be doing a remake of it. So that'll be interesting to see. They released a wee tease trailer of it online with some graphics of the Revan guy holding up a lightsaber in front of his mask on YouTube just not that long ago, which of course it makes everyone just kind of oh, this looks terribly exciting. But there's nothing further that I've heard about it since then. So
I think if they do it right, it's a great revenue play. Blizzard did it wrong with Diablo 2, but they timed it so all of the people that got hooked on Diablo 2 when they were young are now in the income bracket where they can just spend money on it to see if they like it again.
yeah,
And not have to worry about it. Same thing, I think, with Knights of the Old Republic. The big fans of the original are probably now at a point in their career where they'll buy it just for nostalgia, whether it's good or not. Hopefully, whoever's releasing the game can actually let the people who buy it play it, unlike Blizzard North. Not that I'm calling anybody out, but for those of us that spent money on Diablo 2 and can't get on any weekend at all because they don't have enough server space, I'm just suggesting, I'm not in the industry, but I'm suggesting that really sucks and I want my money back.
Well, it's the Transformers
far?
effect, isn't it? It's exactly what you're talking about there. 2008 when they came out with the first of those Michael Bayformers movies, and yeah, and everyone who grew up in the 80s is like, well, I've got some spare cash. I can go to the cinema this weekend. I'll go and see a Transformers live movie. Absolutely. And they've all got kids. So they take their kids along. The kids are like, this giant robot's fighting. This is brilliant. Of course, all the parents there are sitting there going, you have no idea. This is awful. But now their kids are sucked in. They're hooked. So the parents are hooked as well. You're on the hook. You're going to see every single one of these things for the next decade, whether you want to or not.
I remember when the new set of Star Wars came out. This is circa 2008, 2009, the new Star Trek, the more recent Star Wars. How about I shut up? The new Star Trek, more recent ones. And my father took me to a movie, and I had never been to with my father to a movie before or after that moment. I'm like, what is the demographic of people I'm going to meet? And sure enough, there was nobody under like 50 years old in line to go see this movie.
I just want to clarify for our listeners out there, Star Wars and Star Trek are two different things. I apologize for Jake's slip of the tongue. Please don't send me hate mail. I understand. I get it too. Don't be offended.
It's either that or they'll be sending you the memes with, Arnold Schwarzenegger and say, don't have a cowman, says Spock. Falsely attributed quotes.
Beam me up, Yoda.
Yeah.
So as we talk about quality management, continuous improvement management, and moving the culture forward, obviously a critical element of that is people. And there's a certain sense, I think, at which it's impossible to move the needle on the company's processes and culture without also developing people simultaneously to sort of understand and take advantage of those process improvements. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, it's something that's a very key thing, and it's not just necessarily to make the company better, but it's also to give people greater opportunity as well. And that's something that I'm a huge believer in, is increasing people's opportunity, but at the same time making that a kind of multi-value proposition for both organization, employers, and employees. Um, One of the first things certainly I did as a manager is always to review the training matrix that you've got for your own department that you're looking at, as well as the wider training matrix, to see what kind of quality training is in place, because you might have quality training that's directed solely at the quality department, which tells you straight away, red flashing light, this organization thinks that quality is only the responsibility of the quality department. which you straight away have to then start expanding that across the multiple different parts of the organization to explain to them, sell them quality, the value that quality can kind of bring. And you don't even have to sell it as being the value of the quality profession or the quality thinking, perhaps, but it's just the value of not getting things wrong. It's the value of removing waste. But developing people through that it's about how you sell it to them, because there's different people who have different desires, and this is where I like the aspect of people management. It can have its upsides and its downsides, of course, but everybody has their own sort of sets of motivators, desires, and figuring those out is something that's really quite a joy to work with people for. You get people that want to come in, and all they want to do is they want to come in, they want to do their job, and they want to go home at the end of the day. And it doesn't matter how much you bang on about quality, how enthusiastic you are about it. They are never going to read Deming. It is just not going to happen. Never mind anybody else. And then you get the people who are at the extreme opposite end of that, who are like sponges, and they'll soak up whatever you throw at them and say, okay, here's a library worth of books, and look at this organization, go to this website, check this news website out, go see Quality Digest. There's lots of different fields that you can show them, and you just expand their horizons. But most people are generally sort of in between, so it's about figuring out how to sell to them what the value is in themselves for developing themselves. But the converse of that is, of course, as they develop themselves and their own knowledge, the skills and tools that they then learn helps them to bring that kind of mentality into the professional workplace. So by developing them, you are in essence going to develop the company anyway. The company's always going to benefit from that. You're always going to benefit from having a more highly skilled, more highly knowledgeable workforce, as well as at the end of the day, it's just you're talking about improving people's lives and the future of their lives. So you can sit down with someone who's and maybe they've started as kind of an apprentice quality inspector within the company, and say, right, okay, well, let's help you develop over your apprenticeship and develop you up to being a properly trained quality inspector. Let's do something like put you on a certification pathway with the ASQ. Bless you, John.
He picked a good time to mute there. John's not on camera, guys,
well
but he just he sneezed out of his whole house. I'm pretty sure that guy has to find his soul for a moment.
I apologize. I inhaled a gnat into my nose. And,
is that the one that's been bothering you?
It's the one that's been bothering me, so I feel like I got revenge in the worst possible way on him. That's what you get.
A nose like that, I mean, it couldn't have been the first time you had to go through this.
He couldn't avoid it.
I went and had nose enlargement surgery just for this costume, just for Halloween.
It's dedication for you.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, in terms of taking someone who's basically coming from let's say a very low level baseline level of knowledge and experience within a company, you can take them and you can map out a whole pathway of professional development that they can use to expand their skills. You can also then sell to them and say, well, look, if you do this and you invest a little bit of time in yourself and in developing yourself and developing your skills, this is what the outcomes can be for you and for your family or for your future prospects. And it may be something that they're just not aware of, that they've never experienced themselves before. And it can open you up to whole new possibilities from an early age. And that's something that, because that's something I experienced myself, it's something I'm very passionate about, delivering for others as well. I, like I mentioned earlier, came from a hospitality background, which is long hours, low pay, a lot of grief, a lot of hassle for not a lot of reward. And thankfully, and at that time, I could never have dreamed of living in a 4-bedroom detached house with a double car garage. That was just beyond what was achievable with that life that I had at that point in time. Whereas a life and quality has provided that for me. And that's okay. It's a very materialistic kind of way of looking at things, but it's afforded a certain level of comfort, which would not have come had I not done that training, that investment of time and energy in studying and learning and mastering that part of my craft that I've been able to. So that's where, like I say, I'm enormously enthusiastic about trying to help others to do that. But of course, not everyone there is no set path. Everyone has different ideas. But again, you can show people that these different pathways exist. As again we discussed earlier, that it's not something that a careers counsellor at school is ever going to say. Why don't you become a quality engineer? That sounds like a
No,
good future.
not literally never. And never ascribe malice, but you can explain with ignorance. Because I too find that everyone I engage with, they're like, what is this crap you're just rattling on about? But quality in itself isn't an input, it is an outcome. And that outcome is a byproduct of how robust your process is and how committed you got the people are. And the easiest way to gain commitment in a robust process is centering around developing that individual. In my book, not to plug my book, but Chasing Excellence,
But I'm going to plug it anyway.
there's a chapter in there called Finding Your Levers that speaks to exactly what you were talking about. And in that, I share what are things that make me move immediately. Of course, money is one of them. I'm not ashamed enough to say that money's not one of them. I also like a little conflict. I'm a bad boy. So I go through my levers and what makes me move, and then I walk you through how to find what other people's are. And as soon as you have other people's levers, just pull the damn lever. I'm not trying to be a sociopath here, but that's what social influence is, to get the outcomes you want.
Absolutely, but it's identifying those outcomes that other people desire as well, and then being able to help them to pull those levels. That's is the aspect of it that I really enjoy, and it's showing them that the levers exist if they don't even know that they existed in the first place. You can talk to one. I had a series of conversations with the inspectors in the previous company I worked in, and it was saying to them like, okay, so you're an inspector just now, and you know about the quality control aspects of things. You know how to use your vernier. You know how to establish a measuring point off of a series of datums. You know how to read technical drawings. Great, fantastic. However, are you interested in management systems auditing? And a few of them were. So, put a few of them through their internal audit training, because then great, now I've got some additional resources for running my internal audit program for the year ahead. So, selfishly it works for me. But it also means that these guys now, they've got an additional ticket under the belt. It's something, they've got exposure to something that they didn't know existed before. And it's something that they now can look at and say, well, now I've got this as a potential career path. And they start to expand their little possible career future tree that they can go along. And that can be whether it's down the management systems auditing route, whether it's the continuous improvement route, whether it's lean, whether it's non-destructive testing, whether it's ultra advanced metrology, 3D, CT style scanning equipment and whatnot. You can get all that. There's lots of different opportunity, even within quality, which again ties back to what I was saying about nobody can know it all. That's why you've got to have a great team around you, great people around you. You've got to have good external help when needed for the things that you need that for. But again, no one individual is ever going to be able to know it all, but you can know enough about these things to know where you want to go. And you can show that to other people as well, to show them where they might want to go as well. And you can then help them to take those next steps to get along that road. And hopefully then whenever they move on or whenever you move on, you've left them in a position where they're in a better place and better placed themselves to be able to achieve their own personal goals. And by doing so, they then make the company that they're working for a better company as a result as well. It's
absolutely. And John and I often hit that exact same point at the end of the tail end of every conversation. We come back around to like, well, if you just weren't shitty, in the days of a plastic corporate purveyor of infinite knowledge coming in and wearing a superhero cape and saving your whole day, those days are just largely dead. Really, what you need is somebody that can internalize the theory, the philosophy, and strategically apply it when needed.
Derek, I think that's very well put. I really appreciate your insight there. I think a whole book could be written on those paragraphs. But I'd like to highlight, one particular point, which is there's going to be opportunity to add value to people, your coworkers, your peers, maybe your suppliers. And when that opportunity presents itself, we should do it. And I don't have to demonstrate how it benefits the company. I'm sure it will, because helping others will help the company at some point. But it's also just the right thing to do. And I look forward to the kind of culture where more and more companies just embrace, I have this person, I can help them. I can help them increase their knowledge, skill, capability, ability to earn an income, provide for a family. And I'm going to do it just because it's the right thing to do.
It's also a kind of a karmic element as well. You at the same time as well, you are giving other people opportunity to learn. It's investing time and whatnot in your network because you know that, and I know certainly that some of the best people I've worked with, like I said, that QC team lead who is the expert in metrology, I fully expect in a couple of years' time that he'll have far eclipsed my own kind of ability and career, and that who knows, maybe he'll be ringing me and saying, I've got some work for you. Oh, excellent, fantastic, that's very good. So these things will always come around as well. You can invest your time in bettering other people, and likewise you can be bettered by other people as well. You can learn from others in what they do. Like I say, no one could be an expert in any one single thing. You can learn from others and learn to be a better professional as a result of working with others all the time. And that's something that, like I say, I continue to try to do to this very day with every individual that I meet in every field.
Well, it's always a pleasure to connect with working professionals who sort of share our values and want to see people win and take joy in helping other people win. Jake, I don't even think the audience will see that.
The audience will definitely see it because I'm speaking. Wait, did they not see that in the Zoom? And that'll be so funny if they don't see it in the Zoom at all.
John Thacky, Juan Kenobi. Well, I'm taking a screenshot so I can splice that in. But Derek, it was indeed a pleasure talking with you today. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing some wisdom and philosophy with us. Of course, best of luck to you with Paragon Process Improvements. How can folks get in touch with you?
So probably the best way to get in touch with me would be through LinkedIn. I'm available on there. The company also has a LinkedIn page on there. Any of your viewers would like to connect, I'm always welcome to take on any new networking, and then you're always welcome to follow the company. I tend to post pretty regularly on there 3 or 4 times a week, usually quality funnies and related information, but also sharing some network news and just trying to share good quality resources from various different places around the internet. So hopefully it can also kind of be a bit of a learning thing for folk to follow as well, because it's sharing some of the resources that I know about. It's not necessarily sharing my own knowledge, but sharing some of the things I know about, I suppose, in some of the places that I know about. So that's probably the best place to get a hold of me there. And all my contact details are on there. So if there's obviously anyone wanting to discuss any future business, then of course they can get a hold of me through that medium.
Great. And of course, I will put those links below for our audience. Before I let you go, did either of you guys guess my Halloween costume?
Middle-aged man, crisis, life crisis, middle-aged man in a crisis.
You see the abuse that I have to put up with?
Just okay. It's almost as little respect as children pay their parents.
All right.
Is John, in fact, your child?
The other John is
the other child. John Thacky Juan Kenobi.
John Thacky Juan Kenobi. All right, let's try this and then see if you can guess my costume.
Old man, sleeping old man.
I know kung fu.
Say no more.
I didn't get that one. Who is it supposed to be?
That's all right. You're probably not cool enough to know what I was referencing.
That or too young, Jake.
Probably the young thing.
The end of the 90s was cool.
Definitely. We sure appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Had a lot of fun, and we're going to have to do this again because there was so much to dig into today that we didn't get to. Unfortunately, our time today is up. So for everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you very much for joining us this week for another episode of A Quality Podcast. Goodbye.
May the force be with you.
Oh, gosh. You're going to get death threats.